Okay. Thank you for joining us. This is Autodesk Eagle, where our webinar about Eagle First Flights. We host these every second Tuesday of every month. In this one, we're going to be talking about surveying your parts and placements. My name is Ed Robledo. I'm part of the Autodesk support team, and with me I have
Jorge Garcia. Jorge Garcia, I'm the Autodesk support specialist for Eagle. We're going to be covering today our component placement with a few new tools. Ed, go ahead and we can switch over to
excellent.
the.
Well, we're going to go ahead and record the webinar this today, and we'll make it available to everybody as well. The idea today is to give you somewhat of an idea that you're done with your schematic, and now you're going to move on to your board and you're going to do your placements. Okay, so I'll let George just take over here. Let's go. You're going to notice that your screen is going to flash a little bit. After the webinar, it's going to be like 20-30 minutes. We'll go to a Q&A session as well. Okay. So you're going to see a little flash, and another chat group, another chat portion is going to come up. And go ahead and share your screen, Jorge. In the meantime, so we understand that a lot of times you're done with your schematic. You go over to the board layout. All your parts show up. Now, what's the next step on your PCB design? What exactly you need to do to make your circuit board? So we're going to go ahead and talk about that today. And Jorge is going to be going live with Eagle and give us some ideas of what we could do. Thank you, Jorge.
Okay, guys, so let me know if you can see my screen. Hopefully, everybody can see it. Okay, and this is actually one of the first projects I did at CADsoft, or now Autodesk Eagle. And what it is it's a persistence of vision display. And I'm not going to use the board I did finished for this project. We're actually going to use this as a basis to illustrate how the alignment tools work in Eagle. So that's kind of our goal here. Okay, so as you can see, this is the type of design that lends itself to having things kind of in a line. All these LEDs have to be in a straight line in order for the persistence of vision to work. Similarly for the resistors and the various drivers. So this is a type of layout that's very linear, so it's a good way to practice the use of the alignment tool. So I've already started a board. Whoop, I did start a board. Here it is. Okay, so we have the board here. And as you can notice, I've already put the LEDs kind of on the board, but they're not aligned in any nice way. These here are kind of in a straight line, but everything else is kind of a mess. So first thing we got to do is we have to define the group. So here we have a group of all of these LEDs. And then we click on the alignment tools. Now you're going to notice that the alignment tools offer various options. So we have align to grid, which basically if anything is off grid, we'll move it to be on grid. Very handy if when working on your design something goes off grid, you can put everything back on. We can align everything to the left. We can align the centers horizontally, align everything to the right, align to the top, align centers vertically, align bottom edges, distribute horizontally, distribute vertically. Okay? And we're going to go through how each of these works. Now, within the group, okay, let's say we were to select to the left edge. What Eagle is going to do is it's going to align all of these objects, put them all the way up to the leftmost edge. In this case, this LED here defines the leftmost edge. Similarly, if I do with the right, we're going to see that everything lines up to this edge over here. Now, in this case, and in most cases, you have to think about a little bit about the sequence, the order in which you do use these operations, because the order is going to affect the end result. So if I right now click align to right edges, it's going to turn into a little bit of a mess because we're going to have a lot of overlapping parts. Okay, so in this case, that's not the operation you want to perform first. So I'm going to go ahead and do a Control Z to undo that. Okay. Now, the distribute options are interesting and they actually warrant some explanation. Okay. In this case where we have distribute horizontally, what it's going to do is it's going to look at the leftmost edge and the rightmost edge. And then it's going to space everything so that it's evenly spaced in between. Okay? So if I go ahead and click it now, you're going to see how things kind of separate. Okay? This actually is a pretty good arrangement as is. But if you notice, we don't have any explicit control over how or what the separation is on these points. Now there is a way to have an implicit form of control. So I'm going to go ahead and do a Control Z to undo it. If I extend, like I said, it takes into account the left and right edges. So if I just go ahead and move this guy over here and just move him kind of over a little bit more, now there's more distance to spread the parts over. Okay, so in that way you have a little bit of control over the pitch between the components. Okay, so if we go back to group, we still have the group defined. I click on the align command, and if I do distribute horizontally again, you'll see that now there's a little bit of a larger gap. Okay, now here's where again the order can be important. By doing this, if you notice, if I align to top or bottom, now I can get all the LEDs in a perfectly straight line. So as an example, let's try to align to top. We have a perfectly straight line with all the LEDs. Okay, likewise, in this case, align to bottom would have done the same thing, they just would have been located in a different spot. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how these alignment tools can be used. They're useful when you're trying to make arrays of objects, trying to put everything in a line, spread them evenly, as we can see by the distribute horizontal option. Now, likewise, we can do something similar vertically. Okay, and we can try to do that now. So I'm going to go ahead and redo this group. I'm going to go ahead and move it to the side right now. So I'm going to click on group. Just going to drag it over a little bit. Okay, I'm using the group default on option, which allows the group command to handle a lot of the moving and deletion task. Okay, so we'll put this guy over here. Okay, so now we have our drivers over here. Let's go ahead and define a new group. I left click to clear the old group. We can define a new one. Holding control and left click, I can just individually select the various parts I want to use. Again, I bring them over here, and I can rotate them by just right clicking. Okay, and I'm holding, and now we have them there. So again, we need to do some aligning. So I'll go ahead and move this guy over here, create some room, move this guy over here. Okay, and now we go back to group. They're selected. We select alignment, and again we want to think about the order here. So we would want to again distribute them horizontally. There should be enough room. Okay, we'll notice that it's going in order: IC1, IC2, IC3, IC4, IC5, IC6. And now we can do a couple of things. We could again align straight to an edge, or we could do and align the centers vertically. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to grab these centers, and from the top edge to the bottom edge, we'll find a middle line, and then all of the centers will be placed on that line. So if I go ahead and pick this, there we are. Okay, and again we have perfect alignment. Everything perfectly spaced. There's the same amount of space between each of the ICs, and they're all on the same center line. Okay, and if I really wanted to put, if I was really picky about it, I could do a big group and just make sure that they're already aligned in the centers. And there we go. Okay, so in that case you'll notice that only the LEDs move because the top and bottom edges were defined by these ICs. So their centers are already on that line, and now all the LEDs have to be moved onto that line. Okay, so as you can see, it makes it really easy to arrange the board for this type of operation when we're working with a lot of components that need to be in a straight line. So this is kind of a textbook case of how to use this. Okay, so let me go ahead and clear the group again. I'll define a new group over here. Bring these guys a little bit closer. Okay. So are there any questions on alignment so far and how this works? Okay. So as you guys can see, the order of operations is important when working with alignment, you have to take just a moment to think about what you're going to do, because otherwise you can just cram everything onto one side, which is not what you want to do. Okay, so almost always you'll have some sort of distribute operation happening first, just to spread everything out, and then you'll use either an align to center, either vertically or horizontally, and then or the alignment options. And as you can notice, they're kind of organized that way to favor either vertical alignment or left or a horizontal alignment. Okay, that makes it really easy to make arrays of things. So I think that covers what we wanted to talk about as far as the alignment tools. Now, how could we use design blocks to reuse previously known designs that work well? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the schematic. Does not exist. Okay, let me go back to the board. I'm going to go ahead and save. That should take care of all this. There we are. So let's go ahead now and look at the abilities to use existing designs. So right here in this original design, I had a PIC 24, and that was going to be the brains of the operation. Okay, and we have all of the support circuitry for it. Now, let me go ahead. I'm going to save this again, and I'm going to open up the original design, the one that does have everything laid out and works. So let me go over here to the control panel. Let's go over here. Yes. Okay, and here's my original design. You guys can see the routed board. 2011 is when I did this board. As you can see, kind of the same idea that we had already seen. Everything in a row, all the resistors in a row. Now keep in mind, when I did this, I had to do all of this manually. So obviously the new alignment tools are coming in handy. Now what I would like to keep here, or the portion I would like to keep, is the microcontroller section. Okay, so what I'm going to show you guys is how you can make a design block very easily, so we can reuse it in our other design. So the first thing we do is we go File, we pick Save Selection as Design Block. Okay, so the part I want to keep includes all of this circuitry here. Okay, this is the part I want to keep. Okay. Now for a really reusable block, I'm not going to include this photo sensor, since most uses of this design wouldn't require, or the most general uses of the microcontroller wouldn't require a photo transistor here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave this net out. And the way I can do that is if I hit Control, I can start excluding items from the group. So holding Control, I'm just excluding all of these items from the group. Okay. Once I have the group that I want to form into a design block, then what I can do is I can do a Control right click, as you guys can see here at the bottom. Control right click to continue with selection in the other editor. So I'm wanting to click Control right click. There we are. And what you'll notice is that Eagle automatically will grab all of the components that I had selected, but it won't automatically grab the traces. Now why? Well, because even though the netlist is defined in the schematic, we don't know what specific traces on the board you may want to include. For example, in the schematic, I have ground connected in this part. However, I may not want all the ground nets, as is obvious in this case. I don't want every single ground net that's running through this board. Okay, so what could I do? Now, I could selectively add the nets that I want to keep. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hold Control, pick all of this. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm preserving the entirety of this layout for use in order to be able to reuse it. Okay. Yeah, maybe not that one. Let's not include all that. Just to the vias. Okay. Like a little mini fan out thing going on. Okay. Got that. Okay. We're going to have this one come over here as well. Just include that capacitor in there. Want to make sure we keep all of the important parts of this layout. As you can see, it can take a little bit of time because you just want to make sure you're grabbing exactly what you wish to reuse. Okay. Okay, we got all that. We are. Okay, perfect. Like I said, it's one of my first projects, so nowadays I would route this board completely different. But just to show how it can be used and how this can work. Notice I'm being very careful to make sure I include the vias in there. So actually here we only want to go up to that via. Okay, there we are. We're going up to that jumper. Okay, I want to leave those outside. What else am I missing in here? And just going to the vias, so in the future I can go in another direction with these. So what I'm really preserving here is basically the fan out of this design. Is what I'm really preserving. Oops. Oh, something. The operation got deselected. Okay. File, save as design, save selection as design block. Control right click. Okay, here we are. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, for the sake of time, go ahead and select all of this. Okay, and now I'll remove the parts that I don't need, and I think that'll be easier. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. Move that. Okay. Okay, we have those. Let's get these off. Oh, so there was maybe a question that came up, Ed? Nothing for now, okay. Okay, I'm holding control to control the membership of these. I'm just getting all the extra traces out. After that, I think we'll be okay. Okay.
So in the meantime, one question is, could you just grab them all at once and just deselect one by one?
That's what I'm doing now. I'm deselecting the specific ones I don't want. So right here, I think I'm... Oh, this one here I don't want. There. That should be the complete set that we need. That should be it. Oh, missed a little corner here. We don't need this one. We do need this one, actually. Okay, that should be the complete set. That's everything. Okay, take one final quick look to make sure.
So you are deselecting is what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm deselecting the ones I don't want.
Selecting and deselect. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, this one isn't necessary anymore. Okay, that should be everything.
So this is as adding to the components that and the traces that are going to be part of the block that you select.
Correct. So this one also, I'm going to take this off. Don't need that. That should be everything. So now once I've done and I've defined everything that I want to keep for my block, I go ahead and hold control and right click to finish the selection. Control and right click. There we are. Okay, and as you can see, there's everything I had selected. There's my schematic portion. Here you can enter a description of what this block is, and you can give it a name, and here's where you would save it. Now, so that you guys know, you can use full HTML. So I could use, for example, the bold tag and say pig 24 F16 KA 102 breakout. Okay, B. I can put a BR to start on the next line. Okay, open paragraph. Simple microcontroller breakout board minimum circuit. Circuit with layout. Now, because this offers full, most of the HTML tags, you can embed pictures here. You can link to data sheets. You can do whatever you want to do. You can also assign attributes to the design block. So if you have like an internal assembly number you want to use for this, or if you want to describe what the function is, all of that you can add. So as far as the name goes, I'll just call it that. Pick 24 F16 KA 102. Okay. I'll say OK to save it. Still in the older format. Save, yes. So what this is saying is originally I drew this in version 5 of Eagle. With version 6 we switched to an XML format, and basically Eagle is making me aware of it. It's going to save to the new XML format and therefore won't be able to open in version 5.12. So I'll say OK to do it, and there we are. So now, I'm going to go ahead and close this. If I open up the example we're working on, where I have the schematic, and if I wanted to reuse that layout, then the easiest thing to do would be to go here to Design Blocks, Add. I go into my list of design blocks, which is right here. I'll say OK. You'll notice that whole piece of schematic is right there. As soon as I place it, when we go over here to the board, now it wants to know where I want to place it. It's going to show all the names. By default, it's going to renumber anything that had an N dollar sign. Anything that was specifically named will maintain that name. So here we have the ground, the two the three enable lines, sorry, one for green, one for blue, one for red, and the grounds. The open collector input, which is the same for all of them. And we can just say OK. Okay, and you'll see that it's all there. Exactly as we had it. So as you can see, if this is a part that I like to use often, and I already have a known working board, I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I can just keep using a known working configuration and have that as a block that I can use over and over again. So those were 2 key points for this webinar as far as surveying component placement. The alignment tools are going to save you a lot of time, especially if you have to arrange things or want to have things in a line. Definitely is something to use. You can see that very quickly I was able to put everything in the line that I wanted. And I could have gone even more extreme here with picking the specific resistors and all of that. So I could have made the whole line of those as well. And in fact, just for the exercise, let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to go ahead and...
So there's just one question, Jorge, while you're doing that. Somebody was asking, how did you unselect elements from the group? So I just told them to press and hold the control button to select and deselect.
Correct. Holding control and left clicking toggles the item's membership. Okay? So if I have an item that's part of the group, if I hold control and left click, it stops being part of the group. If I left click it again, it becomes part of the group again. Okay? So I'll go ahead and grab these last 3 resistors, which are the main ones I believe I'm missing. And then what we'll do is I'll just go ahead and kind of move them over here. Okay, I'm going to rotate them once. Okay, I'll place them there. Okay, and now what we're going to try to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these, whatever the highest number is, just as an example. I'm going to move it really, really far out there. It's like way over here. Because remember, in order for the horizontal distribution to work, we need to give room. That way it can evenly space everything. So I'll click on group again. We still have our group defined, it remembers. We'll select alignment. We'll distribute these horizontally. Okay, you'll see that you get everything moved so that we're in sequential order for the most part. And now we can go ahead and do something like a center line alignment, which I think is the best choice here. And maybe I have enough room. I think I do. There we are. Okay, so again, we have everything in a row, in a line. I'm going to turn off the values there. So just to get this to be a little bit cleaner. Say apply. And there we are, and I can bring these close to the resistors and have everything kind of ready to go. Let me check on the schematic here what resistors I used for this. I used from 8 on were the ones that I used. So if I go over here, 1 or 7, they are not in order. They could be rearranged later. Okay, but as you can see, everything's in a nice little line. We can kind of align them so that it's easy to route. So there's an idea. That's the basic use of the alignment command. If you guys don't have any other questions, that's all we have for today, and I'm going to kick it back to Ed.
So Victor's asking, can we align the group selected to an exact X and or Y coordinate?
So you can do that, but you have to use the normal group move method. So you would define the group. Okay, we define the group. And then what we would do is you would activate the move command. And if you want to do very, very precise orientation, then in the command line you type open parentheses greater than the reference point for the group. Okay, let's say here I have 8600 and 2050 as my dimensions. Close that parentheses, and now open parentheses where we want the group to be. Let's say we wanted an inch down. So we'll put 8600, and an inch down would be 1050. Okay, because we're in mils, our grid, 1000 mils is equal to an inch, so I subtracted 1000 from 2050. Hit enter, and the group moves down an inch. Okay.
Now realize that the greater sign is the one giving you the creating that origin for that group. Okay, so once you define the group, and using the open parentheses with the greater sign, that is going to define the. It's kind of like that right click where you actually create the group. But with this system, you actually can give it the X and Y coordinates. If you didn't give it the coordinates, the second set of coordinates, it would just basically appear on your mouse cursor at those coordinates. Is that right, George? That would be the origin.
Mm-hmm.
So, so Fabricio is has a question in regards of what about to align up in a circle or other pattern? Are there any tools to be able to use? I know there's an array ULP. So
Correct, and that's the one we would use in this case. The alignment tools currently are just for putting, a set of items into, like as you saw, different types of straight arrays. If you need to do something like a circular array or a rectangular array, then in that case your best option is to use the element array placement tool that's here. Okay, so what we would do is, if you look over here, we have all of our LEDs. Okay, there's 16 of them. So what we would do is you would say something like, you go to Tools, Element Array Placement. The prefix is LED. Actually, let me go with circular. LED, because that's always more interesting. Starting index is 1. Radius, we have to use units of inches here. It'll automatically convert. So let's say a radius of 2 inches. Number of components, we have 16 components. We want a full circle, so we have 360 degrees. And then I can leave them as is, or I can rotate them towards the center. If you're doing something like an LED clock, you'll usually want to rotate them towards the center. In other applications, maybe you don't. So for this one, I'll leave it as is. I'll say OK. And you'll see that we have perfectly placed in a circle those 16 LEDs. Okay. Obviously, I just picked a random point, being 0, 0. If I do the operation again, then I can have it point towards the center, and you'll see that. Do a Command Z, because the ULP basically is running a script that causes everything to move to the right spot. So we could do the same thing, and I'll pick another point that's maybe a little bit less crowded. I'll pick like 9 inches and 0. So we'll do the same thing again. We go Tools, Element Array Placement, Circular Array, LED, 16 components, radius, I'll pick 2 inches, X location 9 inches, Y 0, rotate towards center, and now they're all pointing towards the center. Okay, so hopefully that helps clear things up. Okay, any other questions, Ed?
Um, no. So yeah, no. Somebody is out now. Remember that there's a lot of times that via using UOPs, there's a few nice techniques, just like this array. So when you move over from your board to the schematic, and you're placing your components, make sure that you find that grid. I always get a little confused with the grid, trying to line up things, looking for that common denominator grid.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we have this alignment tool that gives you the grid option to align them up to a particular grid, which is actually kind of nice. But there's also some really nice, very useful UOPs that you could use for aligning everything on a particular grid, or you could just use a regular move command to snap parts to a particular grid. So I don't see any other questions. So, in this webinar, we're talking a little bit about once you go from your schematic to a board, what are the things that you could do? What can make it easier for you to do? So the alignment tool is always a great idea. And now that we have this done in this version of Eagle, it really helps out um, automating quite a bit of the process. So in the past, you always had to do this, one by one, and hoping that you would get alignment by using a long X and Y type of mouse cursor. Now that's no longer. Also, we also learned a little bit about how to take a piece from a different design and create a block and actually be able to reutilize or reuse that block on a different design. In the past, you would actually have to lay it all over in the schematic. Now you could actually take chunks or pieces from one schematic and its in its adjoining board and actually now use them on a different design. And now us as a support team, we are creating more and more blocks and adapting more blocks as we continue with Eagle that we feel are going to be the most useful ones for any future design. So I don't see any other questions, and we are within our time frame as we try. This is maybe one of our first times we get to do this, so make sure you contact us at support.eagle at autodesk.com. That's support.eagle at autodesk.com. And we're always on the forum, so make sure you join us on the forums if you have any questions. Everybody that registered, we will go ahead and send them a link to the recording once we have it available, okay? Thank you very much and have a great day. Or if I don't see any other questions yet, hang on, I see somebody typing. And see if, okay.
Yeah.
I think we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send everybody a link to the webinar. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.